the Art and Industry of Business and Living podcast, discussing conscious choices around business, money, life and living, and creating a greater future for you and the planet. Hi everybody, welcome to the Art and Industry of Business and Living. You're Simone Milasas, your host. Yes, I'm here every week. It's like, hopefully you're not getting bored by it. And I am here with a very good friend of mine and someone that I work with on a constant daily basis, which I'm incredibly grateful for. Emily Russell, thank you for joining me today.
Oh, thank you, Simone. We just are in Dublin, and it's my first time here, and we're looking out over the river doing a podcast.
But we can't see a rainbow, and we can't see a pot of gold at it, but we might go see if we can find some leprechauns later. Because isn't that the gig? It's like find a leprechaun. So. It's like they'll show you the gold. So yeah, maybe we are the gold.
Maybe that's
it. Which is funny because one of the things that I wanted to talk about today is looking at your finances and everything that you've decided about finances. It's like, is it really that hard? Now, I just want to backtrack a little bit because Emily, you started working with me. Actually, Megan Hill is someone that has a podcast with you called What Else Is Possible Show. So you should check that out, whatelseispossibleshow.com. Uh-huh. And Megan, I spoke to her and said, hey, I need someone for social media. Who can help me with social media? And she said, I've been watching this girl. I think she might be good, etc. Emily. So she put me in contact with you. And she actually asked you about, working with Joy Business. And what did you do? Did you freak out or did you think it was going to be all okay?
Oh, I totally freaked out. Because I was like, this is the one area I don't know anything about. And it's the first thing I'm getting asked to create on. So I was terrified, but also really excited. It matched the energy of what I wanted to create. So of course I said yes. But I also at the same time had no idea what that was going to look like and was doubting that I could.
So I know that your point of view at the beginning was like, I know nothing about business.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what occurred?
Well, a few different things. My definitions of what business were before knowing you were that I had to own some sort of small business on my own, that was a business, or be have created something, an entrepreneur. And my definition of an entrepreneur was that like someone who was, running a business or selling something on the side. And in my family, that was like a bad word. If you were creating money, if you're an entrepreneur, it was literally had a negative connotation when I was growing up. So, but I had bought the Joy of Business book and had read it. It was like the second book after I had got my bars run that I got, and read it cover to cover, and I loved it. But I didn't see at the time, I wasn't working as a stay-at-home mom, and I really didn't get that business was part of, I didn't get it was your living. So I loved it, and I also thought, well, I don't even have a job, I don't own a business, I'm not in business, but yet I love all these tools, but I had no idea that they actually
So is business a dirty word as well?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
Totally
Yes. Hello.
Making money, business. It was somehow you had to be. My parents were both lawyers, but they literally prided themselves on telling me, "Well, we chose to be the lawyers that didn't make much money." My mom was a public defender. My dad did all sorts of free law work. It was like, yes, we're lawyers, but we're better because we chose to not make a lot of money.
Wow. So that's the point of view that you grew up with. So how many of you out there grew up with the point of view that you're better?
Yeah.
And literally that's based on judgment. Mm-hmm. It's like better than anyone else because you're choosing not to make money. Yeah. So everything that is, and everywhere that was the way you grew up, and all the points of view and the projections and the judgments and the expectations and the separations and everything that is, will you now please destroy and uncreate everything that is?
Yes.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Again, by now, if you've been listening to my podcast, you're going to know where to go. Yep. Where is it? Oh, yeah, theclearingstatement.com with Dr. Dane here if you want to find out more about the processes. So business was a dirty word, not something that you're supposed to make money from, etc. Yeah. So then how were finances? How was being aware of your finances? What was that like for you growing up?
So I grew up, and it was a similar, and I've had recent conversations with my family about this, but we grew up, especially my mother ran all the finances. So she made a little bit more money than my dad and just always handled everything. So she ran all of the money. And her point of view, still to this day, is, well, I have to use a credit card because we wouldn't have had the life we had I not used it. But she was someone who always kept a high balance, but never missed a payment, always made payments, never missed a payment. So it was just choosing to run her life like tens of thousands of dollars in debt, but always pay.
Okay.
And yeah.
So hang on a second. The way you said credit card, that was like a dirty word.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe now I'm thinking it's a dirty word because I didn't want to take on, because I absolutely bought that pattern. I mean, when I went to college, I studied in Australia for a semester. And so my mom gave me a credit card while I was over there for the semester. And in my world, it didn't even seem like money. I was like, oh, we're going to go out for beers. Oh, I'd like to go shopping. I'm in Australia for the semester, And then got back, graduated, and she was like, here's your credit card bill. And I was like, What? I had because I just always seen her put everything on cards, knowing that we were fine. Like, we never were in financial trouble. She made payments. But I had no idea, like, the debt they were in, that they had been taking out, like, mortgages, second mortgages on the house to send us to college. Like, I didn't know any of that.
So this is interesting. I love when I do podcasts because I learn more about people too. Yeah. So she gave you your credit card bill. So that's after a semester. How long is a semester? How many months?
6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
So do you remember what that amount was?
It was like $3,000.
Oh, that's not that many beers.
That's not that bad. Yeah. That's not that many beers and clothes.
So, So were you working? Were you earning money? Did you have to pay that off? Like,
no.
What was the...
No, I wasn't working. I didn't, and when I went to go get a job during college, they were like, no, you need to focus on studies. Don't work.
But they wanted you to pay the $3,000.
At the end, after I graduated. Yeah, so I started off.
So did you pay it?
Well, I didn't pay off my debt, until, in my 30s. I carried that and then just kept adding on to it throughout all my 20s. I got
the
more
credit card
cards.
that was under your parents' name.
Well, then they transferred, yes. Then I had that, and I can't even remember. Eventually I did pay that, but then I got ones that were just mine.
Huh. So here's something that I'm hearing is that they give you a credit card, but they didn't actually explain to you what the deal was.
Absolutely not. I had no idea about, I guess I kind of knew there was interest, but I didn't have any idea.
But you didn't know you were paying it. You thought they were paying it.
Oh, yeah. They never said, here, that we're going to have you pay this bill when you graduate. No. Just here's your credit card.
So how much were you taught about finances growing up?
Absolutely none.
So, like, from your... So you've got two things, as far as I see. You've got your family, and then you've also got schooling.
Yeah.
Did either of them teach you anything about finances?
No.
I know I've had a conversation with you prior as well, because in Australia, I went to a private school. It's like my son goes to a private school. You have to learn about finances. Like from year 7 to 10, you study what we call commerce, and you have to learn about finances. You literally have to they give you like fake books, so you have to do your own bookkeeping. You have to learn what it's like to be a sole trader, have a company or a partnership, and the difference of all that is, and what that would entail.
Part of school.
Yes.
Oh, no, absolutely
You must learn
not.
that from year 7 to 10.
No, at least where I went, and I think this is fairly common in the States, we had one course called economics. As a senior, you had to take that was one semester again. But we never did anything like that. It was more studying how our government ran economics, like what supply and demand was, like that sort of on a theoretical basis.
Right.
Never did anything.
Well, we learned
practical.
that too. And from year 7 to 10, it was compulsory. And then year 11 and 12, if you choose to learn more about it, then you study economics. And that's more about how the world works, plus how you can work for yourself, etc., and how companies work, etc., but how the government, runs its economy, etc., and the what you choose and how it affects others, etc., and all of that sort of stuff, which is interesting. I've been watching this show on Netflix called Pine Gap, which is a place in Australia. It's in the middle of Australia, right near Alice Springs, and it's run by the Australians and the Americans, and it's a defence place, so that we swap information, etc., about defences around the world, etc. This is obviously a story, it's not based on a true story in here, but it's really interesting. There's this running theme about it because. And this lady tells a story in Pine Gap and says, okay, and she says to someone else, let me tell you a story. There's these two big tough kids who are the most powerful kids in the world, and she's basically referring to China and America, right?
Yeah.
And then she said, and there's this little kid who's like, just sort of like trying to survive here, which is Australia. We've got 24 million people in the country of Australia. And she says, and the little kid, it goes, one of the big kids buys all its resources from the little kids because China gets all its wheat, coal, iron ore, beef, like all of these stuff from Australia, right?
Yeah.
And then we're supposed to have an alliance with America. And then the second that America and China have something going on, they're sort of going, choose a side, pick a side. And we're going, well, hang on a second. If we stop dealing with China, then we will not survive because, it's part of Australasia. China's right there. Yeah. And we're like, and we're not so sure that we can rely on you anymore, America, because you're doing some pretty crazy stuff recently. And we don't know if that's viable or if you actually truly do have our back. And so Australia, she said, the little kid's just going, I really don't know what to choose here. I just want to be this country that, survives here. But the two big guys are bullying everyone into submission of what next. And I'm like, this is a show on Netflix. And yet that's a reality that is very prevalent in our world today and what is occurring. And it's like, but that is all about how they manipulate finances, how they control things based on, who has what and what that looks like. But it's also a level of education that I think people are, get out there and learn something about finances is what I say. So, and even, I was just at a meeting today with our accountant in Ireland and Gary and Dane and David Kubis, our lawyer. And I love talking about business and I love sitting there. If it's something I don't know, I'm like, okay, so what is this? How does this work? And, Garrett was explaining something and I went, okay, can I just repeat that back to you the way I heard it so that I can see if I got this correct or if there's something else? That's why I personally love a whiteboard when you're having a meeting with accountant or finances. You don't need to know everything yourself. And it's like you're actually allowed to, stumble and fall and ask questions and go, hang on, this doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
If something doesn't make sense to you, you're not wrong. Ask a question. It doesn't make sense to me. So like I relayed back what he said and I was like, so this is how this would work. And he was like, yes. And I was like, okay. And then this and this and this, and you add to it. So to me, knowing about your finances is something that can be incredibly creative and incredibly thrilling.
Yeah.
Now, for a long time, that was not in your world, was it?
No. It wasn't even...
Best to absolutely know about nothing.
Yeah, and even with, in the U.S., college is quite a huge expense. And I never even really there was never a talk of, hey, this is what this school costs, this is what this school costs. It was just like, apply for scholarships, which I got some, and then I chose quite an expensive school. And
you had that credit card. No.
Yeah, I had the credit. But my grandparents had gone there, so my grandfather, before he died, I never met him, he died before I was born, and he was a doctor and saved enough money, he put in a trust that he had, I think there were, how many of his grandchildren? 12 or 14 grandchildren that he paid for American kids paid for all of their college with a trust, and I was the last youngest one.
That's awesome.
Awesome. But I never had, he was in Never Life, he probably knew a lot more about this, but no one ever spoke of that, so I just knew that I was lucky enough to get a chunk from this trust, and then I had scholarships, but I got to the school and I realized, wow, I'm like the only one here on scholarships, and everyone else had come from but it was never discussed. I never understood the price of it. I never understood, and then the last year was when I had to take out loans, because that's when it kind of had run out. Yeah. But I never.
So can I ask, because always the college fees etc. in the US is spoken about as though it's huge. So what are you looking at? What does it cost to send a kid to school?
So the school now, it was $25,000 a year when I went there for tuition, and now that school is about $50,000 a year. Okay. Tuition, and then room and boards. I don't even know what that is now. Maybe another.
So that's hugely different to going to school.
Going to
like paying to go to school.
Well, that's what you have to pay for it for university. A state school, that's a private school, and a state school would be maybe when I went there, $10,000 a year versus $25,000. Okay. So now it's probably like $20,000.
That's not nearly as bad as what I thought it was.
Yeah. Now
I thought it was in the hundreds of thousands. Yeah.
But then you end up with like $100,000 bill. But like PhDs, masters, those are going to be more expensive.
Because my son's school at the moment, he's 13, is $70,000 a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's high school.
That's high school.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A good school.
Yeah.
And he's doing well, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Well, that's now same. I'm living in Chattanooga, which has one of the highest rates of kids in private school in the country. I think it's like third in the country. And same, it's about, but it's not 70,000 a year. It's like 25,000.
Well, that's Australian dollars, so it's sort of like pesos. So yeah. At the moment, anyway, with the currency, the rate. So I wanted to ask you, because recently we had a conversation, and it was a project that you're working on within Access Consciousness, and they're required to be quite a level of awareness and knowledge and choice about how the finances were going to work. And what I've noticed, being worldwide coordinator of Access for the last 17 years, is that tended to fall upon my lap a lot, and I like it, I love it, I'm good at it. And I've noticed recently in the past couple of years, I'm like, hey, what if somebody else could take this on in different projects? So I deliberately, didn't go, don't worry, I've got this sorted. You guys just do the creative part and I'll work on the finances. Because it's actually, to tell you the truth, it's not my favorite part. I can do it, but it's not my favorite part. My favorite part of everything I work with is the creation and the moving, which the moving is knowing what is what you have to choose today to create the future, which is part of finances. Mm-hmm. But finances, my father taught me many years ago, there's a story that he drew this graph for me, and he said, what part of business do you like the most? And I said, creation, And in my graph, creation was like 3/4 of it, and there was this slither for finances. And he looked at me and he said, oh, Simone. And he drew another graph, and he said, and it was a much bigger area for finances. And he said, if you don't know about this, and he was pointing to the finances, he said, you cannot have this, and pointed to the creation. And I was like, God damn, I know he's right. I know that he's right. Yeah. So he said, look, you don't have to do it, but you have to know how it works. And that was a really key element for me. I got it. I knew he was right. You have to know how it works. So for me, I've been trying to go, okay, so what would you do? How would you do this? And something that you're creating with a couple of our colleagues, we looked at it and I said, what I would like to see is all of this whole project is what revenue stream do we have and can we create to support this? So it's not leaning on something else. Like, for instance, a lot of the income that comes in from Access Consciousness is from Gary and Dane doing classes. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if Gary and Dane were doing no classes, knock on wood that they get hit by a bus tomorrow, we want this to still keep moving and still keep moving forward. So how do we create this part of the business to have the finances contributing to the growth? And I was like, what if you guys went away and looked at this and maybe spoke to a couple of other people that work in the finance of Access and meet with them? So that was me having that conversation with you. Now what happened?
And I love that you said that, because that's the energy you gave me of, I had been loving creating on this part of Access, and one of the other women I work with has been doing the finance stuff. I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I don't really have to deal with that. I just kind of want to create. And so we were having that discussion. We talked about, well, what if you called these couple women we work with that work in the finances and get more of the aerial view of everything? And I could, from the way you were talking about it, I said, yeah, and I want to know about things too. I don't want to be totally unaware of how that works. So I said, okay, maybe I can actually do this. And it's the same energy like when I had our first meeting for Joy Business, and you said, what do you know about business? And it actually allowed me, so now I can look at that and say, wow, I knew a lot that I didn't know. So when you asked me this about finances, I thought, okay, what do I actually know about this that I've been refusing to even look at for all of these different reasons or choices, So we got on this call, about 4 of us, and pulled up all of the numbers over the last few years of all these different revenue streams and incomes, and I just did exactly that. I asked every time I didn't understand something, I said, wait, can I pause, ask a question? What would it look like if we added something here? Would that change it here? Where could it come from? And it was maybe an hour meeting that I didn't want to get off of. We all had to get on something else.
Don't you love that?
And it was so great. And not only there was creation from looking at the finances and the revenue streams, because it allowed us to see where you could expand, where you could create more. And I finally got that I could look at something and not be overwhelmed, because I had originally been like, I just go into total overwhelm if I have to look at that big of a system for paying everyone and where the finances come from. To me, that seemed like a complete beyond, because I'd never looked at that.
So by hearing this too, I hear that you got what my father said.
Yeah,
you cannot have creation without the awareness of the finances.
Yeah,
it's like the creation would just flop, be like, oh, boom.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm so grateful for you, Emily, and I'm so grateful for this podcast and you being willing to talk about this, because the one thing I get to is you don't have to do it. You just have to be aware of it.
Yeah.
And that's a totally different ballgame.
And I've heard you say that so many times, but now that is really in my world in a different way, where now when I'm looking at anything, I get where all of the revenue can come from and how that launches into the creation of everything in a totally different way than being, I'm here creating this, but I'm not going to look at finances. It has a completely different energy of what's possible.
I love the way you say launches into a totally different creation, because it does.
It does. Now I get it.
Yeah, yes. Yay! How does it get any better than that? We're going to do seal claps now. That's one of my favorite things with Emily is when we're on a meeting on a Zoom and she'll do like a, when you put your two hands together like a seal clap. I don't know, I'm on a podcast, so you can't see me, but you can imagine it. And I notice the energy when I get so grateful and excited about something and I go, seal clap. Yeah, because I'm like, this is launching. That's the launching mode where it's just like, oh my God, this is going to create something fabulous and fantastic.
Yeah.
So is there any tips or hints that you can give to people listening that are going, oh my God, I so get what Emily is talking about that I did not know about finances, and where they're coming from the point of view of like, I don't know something.
Yeah.
What's some of the first steps you get that they could start to use to be aware of finances?
I always ask myself, one of the tools we have in Access is universe, show me something beautiful today. So I always ask universe, show me my brilliance with finance, show me my brilliance with leadership, whatever I was thinking I didn't get. I really asked for contribution from the universe. And then I loved asking, what do I know that I'm pretending not to know or denying that I know, that if I allowed myself to know it would change everything.
And everything at that is times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. Can you say that one more time?
What do you know that you're pretending not to know or denying that you know, that if you allowed yourself to know it would change everything?
And everything at that is times a godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it.
Yeah.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds.
And really trusting. The first time I heard that tagline of Access, empowering you to know that you know, I didn't even get it. I was like, what do I know? So if this seems like something, but it really is trusting that there is something there beyond if you didn't study it in school or you don't think you know anything. That's so not how it works. I never studied business, and I was like, wow, there's all this stuff I actually know.
You don't have to study it. That's the funny thing, isn't it? Who the hell set out the rules that you have to have letters after your name and study something to know it?
And what do you even know? I might have studied biology, but I don't know. It's just so trusting that you actually know something. You don't have to do a training. You didn't have to have studied it in school. You didn't have to learn or find a course where someone knows more than you and take what they know. You know something that's totally unique. And so trusting that the universe will contribute to you accessing even more of that if you just ask. Yeah. And you're going to know something unique about it. And whatever that is, the way the finances work or your job works or the business, that no one else is going to know who you work with. So if you allow yourself to know it, it can really contribute.
Well, it's funny because I've been in a couple of meetings like yesterday and today as well. And if I sat back and didn't say something, then things would not get created as they are today.
Right.
Whereas when last night we were having a meeting and, having a couple of cocktails and talking. And then I was like, these things, I call it when it pings you, when it goes, something pings you. And I was like, well, what about this? And some things just get brushed over and you may not actually actualize it, which is totally fine. You cannot go to the wrongness of you. This is not about getting it right. And then there was one moment where I was like, and I said something and Gary went, that's a brilliant idea. And then we all started extrapolating from that. So you've got to get that this is not about getting it right. And it's not about getting it, you're not wrong. No matter what you say, you're not wrong either. It's like, let's extrapolate and find out what you do know by, opening up into that conversation. And even if you sit down with the people you work with, it can be 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes. It can be 10, 15. We're a big fan of 30 minutes and under for every meeting. 30 minutes and under. What have we got? Because otherwise people just draw it on and it gets boring, whereas you could be creating. But even if you, walk around the table or if you're on a Zoom, however you work and say, okay, what do you know about this? What do you know about this? Recently, we just chose to change something with one of my classes. We actually took it off the cards and cancelled it. And I said, you know what, I need to talk to the people I work with to say, hey, if you have an awareness, let's extrapolate on that. Let's ask some questions because it was weeks and weeks ago in Australia when Sarah, who we work with, said, hey, is this class really going on? And I immediately went, what do you mean is it really going on? Of course it is going on. That's not a question. Did you hear the question of that? Yeah, no. So, and I said to Sarah today, next time you have an awareness like that, don't take what I say as that must be the total end result, because it's not. And it's like, let's look at everybody's awareness and say, what do you know about this today? What do you know about this today? What do you know about this today? And what can we change and what can we choose? Because that's the potency that you have as working with people as well. And knowing that they all have a different point of view, they all have a different awareness, and they all have a different brilliance, as you say, like show me how brilliant I am today and what that can create in the world. And then the final question for me is, what's right about it we're not getting? I love that question. What's right about it we're not getting? So, Emily, do you have any classes coming up, or where can people find you if they want to, do a private session with you on finances?
I know. I'm on the Access website under Emily Russell, and then I have a website, EmilyEvansRussell.com, and you can sign up. I think I have a free, actually, when you go there, I have a free download on business, like about business and procrastination, and what if you're not actually procrastinating and it's actually creation. And you can contact me through there. And I want to mention what you have coming up, because it's contributed so much to me, because we've talked a lot about debt on this podcast, is you for the last 2 years have done a year-long program called Getting Out of Debt Joyfully, where you just have to read the book to come on the program. And every month we jump on a call, and it's everything that you're aware of and what's in your world, and we ask questions, and the calls go wherever everyone would like them to, and with what's that newest thing and energy that's up. And I know after we did the first year, you were like, well, I don't know if we're going to do a second year. And we did, and it was even greater and more phenomenal. And we're doing it again. You are doing it again, coming up in 2019, starting in February. And it's going to be a little different. It's 10 months, and I think you're going to have lots of different guests on and kind of a little bit more, you don't know what you're getting.
But it's interesting, too, as you say that, and how many times I want you to look in your business of, after the first year, I was like, okay, done that, tick, you know, and then everyone was like, are you doing it again? And I was like, no, I did it. And they're like, but are you doing it again? And I was like, oh, it's not going to be a repeat. It's actually a different level of creation. And then I was like, okay, we'll do one more year. And then there was so much demand for another year that it was like, okay, we'll do another year. And now we've got some added languages. We've got 8 languages. Yeah, which is awesome.
And so if you're listening and you're interested, really go to gettingoutofdebtjoyfully.com or .com/2019. They both go to the page where you can get there's a few free videos from you too on getting out of debt, and you can check out the book. And then if you're interested in the program, join us, because it's really one of my favorite. You know what, mine too, actually. Yeah.
Because I literally talk about every month. I mean, it's always got to do with money and finances, and it's got to do with how you live your life.
Yeah, that.
And so, I travel around the world at least 10 months of the year. Actually, I was talking to the accountant today, and he said, you do realize you could probably be registered for paying tax nowhere, the amount you travel. And I was like, okay, we need to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And it's like, because I travel so much and do my own classes and then do classes with Gary Douglas and then Dr. Dane here, it's like there's so many. The one part I love about Access is all the new tools that come up. So I do talk about them every single time. Yeah. And you also get a bunch of emails and tools to start you looking at your finances in a really different way. Because my point of view is no one needs to have a money problem. Yep, not even you. And if you think, oh, she's talking to everyone else except for me, nope, I'm not. I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
So, and I also would love to mention Gary Douglas and Dr. Dane here are actually doing a global foundation class in Houston, Texas. It is live stream. It starts on the 8th of February. It's a 4-day class. The only prerequisite you have to do is a bars class. And I know pretty much every podcast I talk about doing a bars class. So maybe my question to you is now the time to get yourself to a bars class. And I just thought of something. Maybe I should do a bars class in Houston. Maybe.
Yeah.
See, that's how you create and extrapolate.
Exactly.
See, that's what occurs.
Yeah.
You just go, it's like, maybe you should get yourself to a bars class. Maybe you should come to my bars class. So watch out. Maybe, you never know.
There might be a bars class.
There might be a bars class there. But there's going to be a bars class somewhere in the world that you can attend. And then you can jump on for, foundation. And, our lawyer, was saying today to us, he went, oh my God, every tool you want is in that foundation class. Yeah. And it's true. It is. It's like any area of your life that you think is not working for you, you know what? You can change it. You can choose something different.
Truly.
Yes. So I would like to thank you so much, Miss Emily, for coming on here. This was fun. I love doing podcasts with you. I love creating with you. It's like I have a huge amount of gratitude. There pretty much is no words for the amount of gratitude that I have for you, Emily, and so many people that I work with. And I'm going to say I'm grateful for the level of receiving that you have, because when you're willing to receive, so much more can show up. And I see the people in the world who function more from taking. And when someone takes, you can't receive. So what if you could even look at that and ask, okay, so where am I taking, and what if I could start receiving? Totally different reality. It does mean that you're out of control and there is no predictability. So you know what? It probably means you're going to be incredibly uncomfortable. But hey, you know what? We're doing good. We're doing fine. And that's where we function from.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Emily. So thank you so much. And don't forget to check out accessjoybusiness.com and find a Joy Business Facilitator near you, and bars.accessconsciousness.com, and get your bars run. Go to a bars class, because, oh my God, if I didn't get my bars run, I'm not sure I'd be alive right now. I don't think I'd be able to do this podcast. It's like, it's literally changed my life, because there's so much more than this reality. All right, I'm going to leave you with that. Anything else you want to add, Emily?
That's it. Just thank you.
Cool. Yeah. Merci.
Merci beaucoup.
Okay. Bye, everyone.